Hi, I'm Nikki Jovicic from LookUpStrata and I'm chatting with Paula Byrnes, Strata Consultant and Strata Inspector at Strata Gophers. Paula is a Strata specialist with well over a decade of experience in the Strata industry. Thanks for joining me today, Paula.
Well, thanks for having me, Nikki. Thanks for having me.
Paula has been a long-time contributor to the LookUpStrata site, and just one of the articles she wrote back in 2015, which we'll be talking about in a little while, has received over 10,000 reads and almost 100 shares. I contacted Paula for a chat after I saw a post she placed on LinkedIn a few days ago about the way certain strata management offices in New South Wales manage their files. In her post, Paula made the comment that if you are looking at appointing a new strata manager, you need to be asking how they manage your files. Why is this important, and what does Paula know about strata file management? She's here to tell us.
Okay, well, I guess over the years I've been in hundreds of strata offices, and I've dealt with many different kinds of file management systems. You know, years ago they were all hard copy files, which was so much easier. You know, these days probably 90% of strata offices have got electronic files, and look, there's some great systems out there, and then some shocking systems out there, and you know, and I'm doing many every week, and you know, look, you just kind of get to know, you know, the well-organised strata offices, and you know, and some of them, you know, the team is great, the strata managers are great, but the system's really bad, you know, and that's what's happened just recently. It's like, look, I love you guys, I love working, but you've got to do something about your system. And yeah, so I mean, what can happen is you go in and sometimes it doesn't look too bad to start with, and then as you go deeper and deeper, it's just an absolute dog's breakfast.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay, so maybe if we just go through some of the information that you've got for us, Paula. Firstly, what impact has all of the lockdowns had on getting crucial information for property consumers?
Yeah, okay, good question. So before COVID, most strata inspections happened at the strata office, which is what I just mentioned. There are a few companies that went remote a few years ago, and with great success. We thought, hallelujah. I know many strata offices that had been actually planning on doing that for quite a few years, even when I was still a strata manager. So when Sydney was first sent into, well, the first lockdown, most of the larger companies acted really quickly and gave strata inspectors access to their owner portals, which was great. So we could all keep working. And, you know, the smaller strata offices kind of slowly caught up. A lot of them had teething problems. So they were kind of like just experimenting with different platforms like Zoom, for example. So you could log into their system, but you couldn't print any files or download any files. So, you know, it's as useless as other than book, basically. Look, but it was actually a huge win for both the strata office and the strata inspector. So the strata inspector obviously saved travel time, and the strata office managed to get rid of pesky strata inspectors, which is something they've dreamed of for years. You're probably wondering what strata offices have got against strata inspectors, because strata inspectors have got a terrible habit of complaining about everything. Look, I think that has improved somewhat in the last few years. Yeah, and look, they do have reason to complain, but you know, I think a lot of strata inspectors go about it the wrong way. And I think basically the problem is that neither side know what the other side does nor care, unfortunately. So, you know, there's a terrible lack of teamwork in the industry. you know, and the property consumer is paying the price, unfortunately. Yeah.
At a strata management office looking at files, who would have asked you to go and have a look at the files? Can you just give our viewers a bit of an idea about why you would be there?
Okay, yeah. Well, generally it's, you know, obviously it's when a strata owner, who's called a vendor in New South Wales, so the agent, the real estate agent calls their client a vendor, and strata office refers to the person selling as an owner. And so, yeah, generally that's probably 99% of the reason why I would be in there doing a strata inspection.
Okay, so somebody's looking to purchase a unit and they've asked you to go in and have a look at the records to make sure that it's a good property to purchase into.
Yeah, or how many problems it's got, which, you know, we're talking strata, you know, levels. That's where the word strata comes from, you know, layers. So yeah, so I guess it's a little bit like a building and pest inspector. I mean, they go and look at the actual building, whereas a strata inspector is inspecting the files, you know, and hopefully those files are up to date and have all the information that's been discussed. So, you know, any problems like, yeah, and we've seen a lot in the last few years, you know, with cladding, the cladding issues and defects, things like that. So that's the kinds of things that I'll go, you know, I think your average strata inspector is looking for. And also too, just things like harmony, you know, any conflict in the building. So yeah, and pets, well, you know, that's just changed recently as well, as you probably know, legislation.
Okay, that's great. Now, you've written quite a few articles for the site, as I mentioned earlier, and there was an article that you wrote a little while back called "Do New South Wales Buyers Have a Right to Up-to-Date Information When Purchasing Strata?" And in that, you wrote about some of the obstacles strata inspectors face when they access important information. So who bears the brunt when you have those obstacles to overcome, and what's the fallout?
Yeah, well, okay, obviously the purchaser, you know, bears the brunt, and that's like the first party that comes to mind, you know, and that's because there's often missing information, like really important information, you know, which can be very costly for the purchaser or the new owner down the track. And, you know, they can find things out as soon as they settle, unfortunately. And look, that's probably another conversation. There's it's a section 184 strata office have to provide, and so sometimes that that document uncovers information that the strata inspector wasn't able to, you know, just wasn't maybe obvious, or, you know, maybe it's been filed, it should have been in insurance and it was in correspondence, that kind of thing, you know. Yeah, so they can find that out straight away on settlement, or look, it can be years down the track. But also the owner who's selling, because they're usually stressed to the eyeballs. And, you know, at times, especially at the moment, some strata offices, you know, there's like a 2-week delay, you know, for the vendor to get the strata report. So let me just explain. So these days, once upon a time, it was always the purchaser's solicitor that would order the strata report. And these days it's the agent orders, well, the agent gets their vendor to order the report, you know, for the sale campaign. So, you know, so sometimes these vendors or the owner, they're getting their reports, and it's got information about how the strata office are mismanaging their files. And, you know, it can mean the acts with strata office, unfortunately. And, you know, there's even times when we can't even do a report at all because the owners have just changed to a new strata office. and the new Strata office hasn't sorted out the electronic files, and that's usually because the files often lose their formatting when they go from one system to the USB stick. So we have to comment in the report. It's called a disclaimer.
Okay, all right then. So also you've written another article for us, which is the one we mentioned at the beginning that's had all of those reads, the 10,000 reads, and that was why a Strata Manager is so difficult to get along with, and that's been obviously really popular with our readers over the years. So with the risk of buying into a Strata building at an all-time high, how has the problems happened, and is it legal at the moment?
What was that? Sorry. How's it happened? And okay. Is it legal? Well, I don't think the Strata officers are actually breaching legislation, but they're certainly, bordering on. I think they generally do meet fair trading requirements. But, it's when this happens, and like I said, it's not all Strata officers, don't get me wrong here. Unfortunately, it's too many. It's really incredibly poor form, and I think if owners knew this was happening, they'd be horrified. So I think you also asked, what's caused it. Well, as I mentioned earlier, electronic files. So for years, they've wanted paperless offices, a paperless office. It used to be all hard copy files, now it's electronic. So, much easier to get wrong, much easier to file in the wrong place. Also, I think it's attitude of staff. And again, not all Strata officers. That's changed, thank God, over the years. But there's still some Strata officers that are a little old school. Also, too, I think most Strata officers, their focus is on looking after their current owners, which is great. But their attitude towards, non-owners is just a little careless, really. Which when I say non-owners, I mean buyers, new people coming in, and they really need to care about new people coming in. Because what can happen is new person coming in gets a bad report, and they're disgruntled from the beginning. So what else? I actually also think that some Strata directors just don't see the value in good file management, unfortunately. And even some of the bigger companies out there that I see getting awards are very guilty of poor file management. And also Strata owners themselves contribute to the problem, because they just, I think, take up too much of the Strata managers' time with unrealistic expectations. And, a lot of them just don't understand the role of a Strata office, really.
And that's what you were talking about in the article, wasn't it? Why our Strata managers are so difficult to get along with. Basically, that article discusses the fact that the Strata managers are hugely busy with their day, and they have a lot to get through. And then they've got other people ringing up asking for information or asking for bits and pieces that don't necessarily fall under their role.
Oh, yeah, look, totally. It's like, and I know this because I'm a former Strata manager. And you get your owners that, so you send the plumber out to the building and they want you to check the plumber's work. Just how can a Strata manager that sits at a desk, no plumbing? Or they expect you to police a conflict in the building. So instead of calling the police, they're calling the Strata office or the Strata manager. And, and at times, it's very difficult to get them off the phone, So I totally get I get that side. But, you know, something needs to give here. So, and also fair trading. I think fair trading have contributed because there's a lack of understanding of the role of a strata manager as well. But fair trading actually need to make some changes here. Yeah.
Thanks, Paula. That's yeah, that's really interesting. And we've had other articles on the site before that point to the fact that not everything that goes on in an owners corporation is actually an owners corporation business. It might be. You mentioned sort of the police there, and there are other services that should get involved, and it's not necessarily always the strata manager that needs to step in.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay, so when we had a quick discussion previously, you did mention to me about a blacklist. So what is a blacklist? What are you talking about? And would you like to explain that to us?
Yeah. Okay, well, I have a blacklist, unfortunately. So the strata officers that are on that blacklist, the ones that don't have designated staff to keep to keep their filing systems up to date. And so these ones that are not on it, I'm going to be positive, speaking the positive here. You know, they take the time to go through. So when they get a USB stick, so they've taken over new management, and they get the files on a USB stick, and because they've been gone from a computer software platform to a USB stick. I'd say most of the time these files are coming across unsorted and unlabeled. So you know hundreds of files, and they take the time to go through them and actually and label them and date them and integrate them into their own system. So having said that, there are a few strata officers that I think have they've improved in the last 12 months because experimenting with different systems. And I mean, wouldn't it be great if everyone had the same system? There's some great systems out there, and there's some, not so good systems, but I guess, that's in all walks of lives, right? Yeah.
And I guess in some instances, some of the officers had to adapt really quickly, didn't they, because of what happened with COVID. So they might not necessarily have made as informed a decision as they would have had they had more time to make the decision. Okay, so at the beginning in the intro too, we mentioned about how if you're appointing a new strata manager, it's really, really great information to know how they're dealing with files. So do you feel that if you were in the process of appointing a new strata manager, one of the questions you should be asking is how will they manage the onboarding of the files as they come over from the previous strata manager?
Look, absolutely. But, I think because, I see a lot of owners, because they don't understand, the role, or they don't understand what services are included and what services aren't included. So I think the first step before doing anything, I think read the strata managing agency agreement and understand it. And okay, that's easy for me to say. If you don't understand what's included, set up a meeting with the licensee of the strata office. Licensees, even in very, very large companies out there, they're approachable. So that's the first thing. Go through it. And before, because what I see is owners corporations going from a really good strata office to one that I kind of, because I read the correspondence, and I think, oh no, I don't think this is going to be a good fit, and so they jump around. So understand, have a meeting with your licensee, but if you still decide that you want to move, yes, absolutely, ask that strata office, how they're going to manage the files that come across. And the answer needs to be that they will integrate them, because if any of the owners go to sell in a couple of years later, they're going to run into this problem. So, yeah, very important.
the files aren't collected correctly and managed correctly. If a vendor's sort of got their property up for sale and prospective purchasers come in and ask for a strata report, and the strata report makes note of the fact that you can't actually access the information that you're after because of the way the files are being managed, do you think that would impact on the vendor?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, there's sometimes when I need to say to my clients who are predominantly real estate agents these days is that, you know, you're actually better to have no report, because when the report has got a lot of gaps, like, you know, missing files or unable to ascertain, you know, and that's at a minimum, you know, it can spook the buyers. And, you know, so what happens is, you know, you're going to have less offers and it's going to be harder to sell. Absolutely it can impact the sale of a property. Yeah.
Okay, so how widespread is the problem, Paula, and what do you think can be done to fix it?
Yeah, okay. So I think there's a few things that need to happen. So I think one, to me, it seems obvious that the strata officers that get the USB stick and don't do anything with it, well, they do. They download it into one folder, and basically they go, you know, there you go. I've had a comment one time, it was like, you can have a little play with it, you know, and that's, to me, that's incredulous, because it's like, you know, no, you need to manage your files, you know, it's crazy. So, you know, so what they're doing is they're actually just dumping them and not doing anything with them. So I don't understand why they don't just charge for the service. So this is the thing, you know, I think it's a case of they're over promising and under delivering, right? And the owners are going, oh, you know, that seems like it, you know, that's cheaper. We can save money and you know, we'll have more money for a new garden or whatever. But you get what you pay for. So what these strata officers that, you know, maybe don't have the time, because it, you know, it obviously can take weeks. It's certainly not something one strata inspector can do within 1 hour. But, you know, they should charge, you know, even get somebody in. I don't know who that would be, because I wouldn't want to do it. And I get would be a rotten job. But, you know, maybe there's a new career out there for somebody. Yeah, so that's one thing they can do, that charge. But look, I think fair trading need to change the current legislation. It's too loose. Current legislation just says that the holder of strata records has to allow access. You know, there's other conditions there with written authority. I mean, that's just way too open. So yes, they are allowing access, but it's useless access. So fair trading.
Okay, and some legislation around the way that files are actually managed and how they're stored.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, thank you so much, Paula. That was really enlightening. Great to make our viewers and readers aware of the problems that are out there and what they can do about them, and how they can make sure they're not impacting them either in the hip pocket or just with the general running of their owners' corporations. And any articles that we've mentioned from Paula during the session, I'll actually put a link down below the video to let people access those articles. They can have a read. They're really, really good information in those articles as well, obviously, with the amount of reads that they've gotten over the years. So thank you, Paula, for your time. I'm very happy to catch up with you in the future at some point. Maybe we can go into some of those points in a bit more detail. And thank you very much for spending the time with us to let our viewers know.
Oh, look, thanks for having me. Thanks, and hopefully, you know, there'll be a ripple and there'll be some changes before too long, because I'm going grey.
Excellent. Well, hopefully that will occur. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Nikki.